Hi, welcome to Midwest Magic Cleaning. My name is Anna Banna Bobana, and this week we're doing a house that is really interesting because of how it got into this condition. Last week we cleaned a basement that had some really big problems. It was basically some people lived here, trashed the place out, and then they left, and it left the owners with a really bad aftermath. This week we're doing the main floor, and keep in mind as we're cleaning this that it was cleaned into this condition over the course of I think about a year. Before I ever got into it, there was trash knee-high in a whole bunch of different rooms. There was a very severe roach problem, and it took the owners a very, very long time in order to get the house back into at least a decent condition. Now, what makes this house interesting, at least to me, I'm not going to give you a bunch of real detailed information because I don't want to risk identifying the person who lived here. But what I find interesting is that you can actually see generationally who lived here and how well they took care of the house. The house was built in the 1940s, and pretty much everything in here is original, including all the framework, the baseboards, the trim. It's all matching wood. There's some old DIY stuff in the house, like old cans of paint, a lot of tools, extra parts for plumbing, toilet rings, and stuff like that. So you can tell the people who lived here before, back in the early days of the house, really took care of it really, really well. But I've done enough of these cleanups to know what is old damage and what is new damage. So as we're cleaning this house, I can tell that a lot of the damage that's currently in this house was made by the last occupant. And then probably the one right before the last occupant as well, because some of the damage is new, but some of it is a few years old. So one of the ways that I can tell that this house has been taken care of and that this is more recent is because if everything in the house is original, and almost everything is, and there's not really any damage to the structure or the baseboards or the trim or the countertops, it means that from the building of the house up until recently, everything was well taken care of because it's not damaged. However, when I got in there, even though they had cleaned up a whole bunch of stuff before I ever got there, the house, when the last tenant left, had a massive roach problem. All of the roaches are dead now. They've been exterminated, and even if an exterminator didn't come in, they would have been dead by this point anyway because they've gone a year without food. But what that tells me is that the infestation problem is recent because the infestation didn't have time to destroy the house. If this would have been an infestation that had gone on for decades, the house would be in shambles because roaches and mice and rats and whatnot would eat at the walls, and eventually stuff would just start to decompose and crumble. That makes our job a lot easier because it means that we're just there to get rid of all the roach bodies that were left over, and then to clean and sanitize and get rid of trash. So it's a 3-step process. Get rid of trash, then we're going to use an all-purpose cleaner like Mr. Clean's Clean Freak, which is my favorite. I'm not sponsored by them, so shut your face, son. That's to get off the crud, and then we're going to sanitize it with an alcohol mixture. One quick note while we're watching me do this, you're going to see me cleaning a sink with toilet bowl cleaner, and that is one of those old ceramic / porcelain type sinks. I never know which is which because I'm kind of stupid, son. Anyway, if you ever do that on one of those white sinks, don't use any toilet bowl cleaner except clinging bleach, because bleach is fine to clean those things with, but if you accidentally get the acid-based one, that can actually etch the finish and make it worse. Now, fortunately, this sink didn't really have a finish because I think it's original to the house. But even knowing that, I still wouldn't use an acid-based cleaner on this. I'm going to use bleach-based. If you don't trust toilet bowl cleaner to clean these things, you can do a different method where you put the plug in the drain, you fill it with cold water and maybe half a cup of bleach all the way to the top, and just walk away. Let it sit there for like an hour. When you come back, all the stains will just be gone. Let's talk about my homemade APC real quick, because that's really important when cleaning a house like this that has had an infestation of pests. Basically, it boils down to putting 70% isopropyl alcohol in a spray bottle and then adding 5 or 6 drops of Dawn dish soap. That is enough to sanitize things of bacteria, viruses, and whatnot, but you can dilute it even further to get rid of small things like roach eggs. Those will die on contact with alcohol. So in this particular case, I'm using about 1/3 of a spray bottle of isopropyl alcohol. It doesn't matter the strength, because this doesn't have to be exact. The rest of the bottle is going to be filled with water, and then I'm going to put in 5 or 6 drops of Dawn. I'm going to spray down surfaces, and then I'm just going to let it sit there for at least a minute and a half. The reason I'm telling you this isn't just because it teaches you how to disinfect surfaces, but whenever you're using a hand vac like I'm doing to get rid of roach bodies, you can actually use that same APC to clean out your vacuum. What I do is I spray it on the inside of the little canister that holds the debris, and I'll also spray it on the filter. If your filter is inside like a screw lockdown sort of area, and you're okay with the idea of getting the inside of your vacuum a little bit wet, what you can do is spray that APC into the air and suck it up with the vacuum, and that'll pull that APC through the filter and sanitize everything on contact. Normally, whenever I'm cleaning a house like this, I have to rent a dumpster, and that can get extremely expensive extremely quick. In my area, a 40-yard dumpster can run anywhere from $750 to $1,200 depending on availability. However, in this case, the owners actually have a flatbed trailer. So we were able to load up the trailer on day 1 with all the basement stuff, and then on day 2, whenever we came back to do the main floor of the house, they had taken the trailer to the dumped all the stuff, and then we had a brand new trailer to work with. Had that not been available, we could have pretty easily filled a 40-yard dumpster, which is one of the big ones that's like the size of a train car. This made it so much easier to get all the trash out because it was right outside the front door. We could just take it out, throw it on the trailer, wait till the trailer was filled, and then they'd go dump it, and then we'd have a new one to use. So suck it. Now, the good thing about this is that since we have somebody who's taking things to the dump and then bringing the trailer back, it means that any of the extra trash that we box up and bag up, we don't have to worry about running out of room. If the trailer's filled up, we can just put the additional trash in the living room, and then all they have to do is, after we're gone, they just come into the living room, grab the remaining trash, throw it on the trailer, haul it off, and it's done. So they don't have to go through the rest of the house and sort out things and wade through roach bodies and try to worry about cleaning and disinfecting and all that stuff. They just come in, grab the stuff, and go. I mean, honestly, if all houses were this easy, we would be doing like 3 cleanings per week on this channel. It would just be non-stop cleaning videos right in your face hole. While we're doing this, let's jump into our weekly tradition where I give you some YouTube channels that I'm addicted to. For the most part, you guys seem to like the same types of channels that I like, so let's call out some that I watch on the regular. The first is one that I've never called out on the channel before. It's called Blacktail Studio, and it's a guy who does those big wood slab type of coffee tables with epoxy pours, but he does more than that, and it's not just what he makes. He's very, very good at what he does, but he's also really funny and really personable. So I watch him as much as I watch the channel, and it's one of my favorite channels. The second is one that I call out all the time, but every time I call out channels, somebody is always like, you should check out Remy Klug. And then I'll have to respond with like, man, I've called her out like a dozen times on the channel. So here's a dozen and one. I want to call out Remy Klug. She's one of my online friends. She's a cleaner, and she does a lot of the stuff that I do, not necessarily with hoarder houses, but with her own everyday messes. And she talks about the realities of being a mom and trying to clean up a house that is always getting cluttered faster than she can keep up with it. And she's just really, really down to earth. So super cool. I'd love to do a collaboration with her one day. She's just awesome. The next is Nathan's Lawn and Gardens. I am a sucker for lawn channels, especially lawn channels who help people for free. And Nathan is one of the best. He's another one that if I ever make my way to Australia, and at some point I am going to go there if it kills me, I really want to collaborate with him and just do something for his community. I think it would be a super fun day to just hang out with him and do our thing. And the last one is somebody everybody knows, but I'm calling her out because just in case I've got some people who watch my channel and don't know about her, you really need to watch Ari Katarina. She is from Finland, but she travels the whole world to do really, really bad houses. And her personality is bubbly and hilarious, and it's really fun to watch her videos. She does what I do, but hers almost feels more like a TV show than a documentary. I think if we had to put ours into classes, mine would be more like a documentary. Hers would be more like a TV show. But if you've never seen her before, it's worth it to say you've seen a couple videos, so I would give her a shot. She's really fun and really funny. Plus, instead of saying trash, she says trasses, and it cracks me up every time she does it. As we're getting through the last of the kitchen, it just kind of blows my mind how really good of a condition this is kept in, because I think those countertops are original, and that is mind-blowing that they've been around for that long and still aren't damaged to the point of needing to be replaced. And in a way, it bothers me that the house was allowed to lapse into this condition, because really this house is like a time capsule. So in order to preserve this, we're not going to use a bunch of bleach and stuff on these countertops because they're red, and you don't want to bleach out anything that's got a red pigment in it. So I'm going to use Mr. Clean to get the main part of the crud off. I'll spray that down, let it set for about a minute and a half, and then I'm going to go over it again with that alcohol-based APC that I talked about earlier. Let that set for about a minute and a half, and then wipe it down, and that's all we're going to do to it. This will not only get rid of the crud, but it'll kill any extra baddies that might be on the surface, like bacteria, any viruses, a live house moose, a wolf, my ever-deflating ego that just kind of drips out of me and lands on surfaces, and my utter and crushing desire to just evaporate. Anyway, if you don't have Mr. Clean, you can use literally anything here. You could use dish soap if you want to. I just use Mr. Clean because it's fast. I know a lot of my friends like to use Zep. Zep makes like degreasers and all-purpose cleaners. That works perfectly fine. What I'm going to try to avoid, though, is using any scouring agents on the countertop. I don't think they'd hurt. I don't think they'd scratch anything up, but I'd rather be safe than sorry, and it just feels wrong to do anything that might potentially damage these. Weirdly, to me, it would be like using a scouring agent on my grandma. Like, she's been around this long, there's no need to use anything harsh and damage her. Now, the cabinets are a different story. These have clearly been painted before, so we're just going to clean those off down to the surface, give them a quick sanitize, but really those need to be repainted, and really the whole house needs to be repainted. But we're going to make both those and the walls cleaner so that when they do repaint it, the paint will actually stick. All right, we've got some high-pitched vacuuming noises coming up, and people have asked me to either talk over those or put some soothing music over the top of them, so I'm going to just put some soothing music for just like a minute or so while that happens. Hopefully you enjoyed that. That's one of those songs that puts me to sleep really easy and, I don't know, kind of relaxes me when tension is too much. It's called The Cat's Meow by Everett Almond, and you should check out his work on YouTube Music Library. Quick sidebar, people ask me all the time how I wash my rags once I finish a place like this. It depends on what I'm using them for. So if I'm using them on stuff that's really gross, like maggots or a toilet, I'm just going to use the cheapest, oldest rag that I have and then throw that away immediately. There's no sense trying to save that. But in this case, basically we're just cleaning up crud. So I'm either going to save up my rags until I have enough to do a small load and do them by themselves, or you can throw those in with your towels. It's not going to hurt anything. You just run it on a hot cycle. And if you have a heavy duty setting on your washing machine, just use that. That is enough to kill anything gross on the rags, and it's enough to get them clean. The biggest thing you want to remember is don't use fabric softener and don't use a dryer sheet if you're cleaning microfiber rags, because that will put kind of a thin film over the top of them, and then if you try to clean windows with them, it'll end up leaving streaks. So I just straight soap, no fabric softener, hot cycle. And if that doesn't work, I just insult and berate the rags until the dirt just falls off. They start crying, the dirt washes out, and then it's good to use after that. Another really important note though, if you're cleaning anything that is using a bleach-based cleaner, don't throw those in with your regular everyday clothes or any towels that you want to ruin, because that can leach out and ruin the collars in your other fabrics. And one last little tip that has nothing to do with laundry, this is a total sidetrack, but if you're dealing with drawers and cabinets that have old roaches or vermin poop or something like that in it and you want to sanitize those, you'll clean them like normal, like I told you, with an all-purpose cleaner and then my homemade alcohol cleaner. But whenever you're done, you can actually just spray that alcohol-based cleaner directly in the drawers, not enough for it to puddle, but enough to get it misted, and then just close the drawers or leave them open or whatever. You don't have to wipe it out that last time. The alcohol will actually evaporate off and do its thing without you having to wipe it down again. We'll sweep this floor. Yeah. So, right there, buddy.
Gross, dude.
Yeah. It's like cemented to the floor there. So you're basically getting it clean to begin with and then finishing it off with a disinfecting spray. You could even use things like Lysol or a bleach concoction to do the same exact thing. You're just letting that sanitizing spray sit for a longer amount of time until it just evaporates off on its own, just to be on the safe side. Maybe I'm the only one who is interested in stuff like this, but look how good of a condition that stove is still in. That's a GE push-button electric stove, and we're not sure if it works or not because I didn't plug it in and try it, but that is amazing how perfect of a condition that stove is in. I mean, we didn't even have to use a dissolvent or a solvent type of a cleaner or an emulsifier or anything like that. We just sanitized it with APC. In all the houses I've ever done, the stove is one of the worst parts to do. We have to use a scraper and oven cleaner and get all kinds of nasty gunk off of it, but this one was just clean as a whistle. And as you know, whistles are extraordinarily clean. I've never personally gotten a whistle and then thought, man, that thing is just disgusting. That's how clean this stove was. But yeah, we just finished that up with APC. We did the same thing with the walls just to get off any extra blemishes. And then we moved to the top of the fridge, got rid of everything on top of that and kept the good stuff. Like there's an old kerosene oil-based lantern that we kept, a glass cake dish and some sort of candy type dish, but everything else pretty much went. And then we just move on to the floors and we're basically almost done. Now, I could have gotten that part in front of the sink way cleaner than what I did, but to be honest, it would have taken a pump sprayer or to puddle up some floor cleaner and use a mop or some scouring pads or whatever, something to really get in there and hand scrub that. But I didn't bother with it because this floor has actually seen so much use that the linoleum is starting to peel up and curl along the edges. This floor is going to have to be taken out. The other thing that we didn't do was we didn't move the refrigerator or the stove to clean underneath it, and that's because I just plain forgot. Normally I don't move those things because the refrigerators are full of food and they're extremely heavy, and I don't move stoves because most of the ones I work with are gas, and I'm terrified that I'm going to move it and break a gas line. But these were perfectly capable of just sliding out, cleaning under, and sliding them back. I just absolutely forgot. It was totally my bad. Or Jason's. Let's blame Jason. Jason forgot to pull those out and clean underneath him because he's a piece of crap. You should all make fun of Jason in the comments for his laziness and his inability to pull things out and clean underneath him because it's totally his fault. And the last things that we're going to do before we do a final sweep and mop on the whole place is we're going to move everything out of the living room and vacuum that carpet. Now, since I'm going to be using a vacuum and that makes a really terrible noise while it's sped up, it sounds like a dentist drill, I'm going to go ahead and play some soothing music, and then we'll be right back after the sounds are gone. It's like hearing the voices of angels. I love how soothing that is. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and wipe down the walls, do a quick sweep and mop on everything, and then we're all done. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. We're trying to get to 1 million subscribers, and as of this video, we have 703,000. If that isn't insane, I don't know what is. I just love the fact that there are people like me who are just weird enough to like these videos and like overly weird enough to like the dumb jokes that I throw in. I think we all have the type of personality that makes other people sigh at us. Anyway, please hit the subscribe button. Members, I will see you this Wednesday. And for those of you who aren't members, I do an extra video or a live stream for people who are members of the channel, who do the paid membership. I do that every Wednesday. People who are on the second tier and higher, the middle tier and higher, get an extra video or a live stream. And then everybody who's on the lowest tier and higher gets access to Discord. You'll have to look up how to connect your Discord account to your YouTube account so that you can have access to it. I have a link to a video that explains that in the community section of this channel. But pretty much every night I'm on Discord, and we often jump in and do voice chats and webcam chats and just hang out and BS with each other. Anyway, for those of you who are members, I'll see you this Wednesday. For everybody else, I'll see you next weekend. Later.